Alright, I pulled the air dam and it looks a little dirty here by the heat shield, so I'll go underneath the vehicle and look around there. Everything else looks dry. I don't see any rodent debris. I didn't have a mouse eating sunflower seeds underneath there or something. And so now it's time to get underneath the vehicle before we pull the plug and inspect for leaks. Make sure everything's dry, make sure everything's tight, all the wires look good, all the mechanical connections look good. It's a static inspection, so you can only see so much, but get underneath there, look around. Alright, getting ready to slide the catch pan underneath there, and it's 17 millimeter. I recommend using the box end or a socket. And if you use a socket, I highly recommend 1/2 inch, not 3/8. That'll give you more mechanical advantage to get the bolt out. Alright, we're going to be dealing with hot liquids. Definitely warm, if not outright hot. So you want to put on your protective gloves. And what we did in industry when we dressed out in our protective clothing is we put in cotton liners before we put on our nitrile gloves. Might have been vinyl back in the day when the earth was cooling. And so it just helps the gloves slide on, helps with the sweating, especially if it's hot summertime. And then it gives you a little insulation too. If the liquid's hot and it gets on your gloves, the heat transfer is a little bit put off. So anyway, let's get underneath there and pull the plug. Okay, while that is draining, we'll just remind you it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey as you're looking at it, or counterclockwise. Go from left underneath to right, counterclockwise, to loosen it up. Well, I never really used to change these gaskets. However, the internet is never out of stock, and you can purchase quite a few of these things. You don't have to pay 10 cents for it and $10 shipping to get it from a Volvo website and go down to your dealer, pay, $10 for it or whatever. But anyway, so they're readily available, so I highly recommend changing them. It's not like the olden days. We'll swap that out. You can see it's deformed. So we'll get the old one off and put the new one on. Alright, there's your oil drain plug washer, oil drain plug gasket, part number 977751. And we'll get that on there. I actually put it in the vise and unscrewed it off. It was on there pretty good. It's aluminum, it deforms when you really tighten it down. So we'll get the new washer on there, calling it a washer because it's metal. And we'll get that guy on there. Put it back in, finish that, and then we'll go to the oil filter. Alright, depending on how much time you have, you can let it drain forever. Once it starts slowly dripping, I usually button it back up. We'll go to the oil filter. It is V410 is the part number I use for removing the oil filter cap. I tried 21, 22, 7/8, 13/16, and the 22 is a little sloppy, but none of the other three fit, so I'm going to go with the 22 millimeter. The 21, you can see I used in the past, those marks there. That's from the 21 millimeter. So I'm going to try the 22. Alright, the oil filter has an oil level sensor wire going around it. Is that what it is? Well, maybe not. This is the oil level sensor. My mistake. Misspoke. This wire here, I always move it because it seems to be in the way. Just makes life easier for that cap to get around, for the tool to get it onto the cap. So, and I don't even know what this is. I'm not gonna hunt it down and tell you what it is. It's just in the way. So let's get that off. All right, let's see if I can capture how sloppy this is or is not. Yeah, I think we're gonna get some oil out of here. So it is sloppy. There we go. Clean that mess up. All right, I've cleaned up the receiving end where the cap goes on to the engine. And now I'll clean this up. If I can stay on camera. Oh, rags. I typically use 2 rags. One rag I sacrifice. It's usually the one that was the clean rag in the previous oil change. So I'll grab a clean rag, and that'll be like for my hands, you know, little minor stuff. And then for the general cleaning, for the oil filter cap, or oil filter removal tool and the oil filter cap, I generally just sacrifice a rag for that. Okay, well, after all these years, I've seen something new to me. Let's see if I can find it here. I noticed this on the Toyota. It was very obvious. This one is not quite as obvious. There's a little groove right there. And the reason I miss things like this is that it's black on black, whether you do plug-in stereo equipment or whatever. Change gaskets on a oil filter cap. You know, it's just very difficult to see that groove in there for black on black, but there is a groove in there, and you can pick out the O-ring. That'll help you. You don't have to dig between the grooves that it lives in. And then also put it on correctly. Doesn't go on the bottom, doesn't go in this little groove, goes in this groove, and it doesn't go where the threads are. If you spin it around, the threads pretty much go all the way down to the top of this, so it really wouldn't fit in there anyway. So, but anyway, you can use that as a guide if you'd like. Also use it as a pick point. Alright, I'm not going to reshoot or edit this out, but I screwed up. This is the wrong filter for the Volvo XC90. This goes to the S90. I apologize. I should have realized the number. It didn't occur to me. I was concentrating on script. Sorry about that. We are going to use a genuine Volvo filter. The oil filter for this vehicle is 1275810. I did not realize I grabbed the wrong ones. I apologize. The oil filters come with a new O-ring, of course, which I just removed and took out. But now they also come with a plug gasket. So I'll put that back in my toolbox, seeing as how I have a whole pack now. This is new. Either that, or now that I'm thinking about it, again, I apologize, I misspoke. Wow, what's going on, David? I might have thrown it in there so that it was available when I changed the oil. So I could have done that. But it definitely comes with oil filter and O-ring, and I highly recommend you replace the O-ring. So my apologies for those couple of errors. So, you know, changing the oil, just be careful. Alright, O-ring back on, and I count on the oil that remains on there when I wipe it off. I don't wash it off. to help lubricate and seal it. So make sure it goes in that groove. You have your little pick access point here to help guide you to see where it goes. You know, it's not on the threads, it's not underneath or below the groove there. So make sure that's correct. Seeing as how I'm making errors with part numbers here. Don't want to make an error with something critical. And then, yeah, it can go in either way. There's a large sealing area when you put this in. Alright, I'm having trouble filming this, you know, just holding the camera with one hand and starting this with the other, but typically get it into position, start it by hand, and then I'll use the tool to finish it up. So let me use two hands and do that. Okay, you can click it in place if you want to with your torque wrench, you know, like 25 Newton meters or something. And we'll put our wire routing back in its proper location. Then we'll keep cleaning up here, make sure everything's clean. That way next year or whenever the oil's changed again, we can inspect it for leaks. Now I will check for leaks before I put the bottom cover back on. Alright, next is our oil fill. And remember, you'll get an oil level warning if you don't put enough in there. I don't go to the tippy top anymore. I used to go to all the way to the very top of the line, the max line. I don't do that anymore, and again, that's how I found out about the low level warning message. Not to be confused with the low pressure warning. So let's see if I can get this on here. There we go. Let that drip down, and that's 5. So we need 2 more quarts. That'll give us 7, and we'll not worry about the 0.1. Okay, so we've checked for leaks, and we're getting ready to put the cover back on, cleaned it up, so that next time we'll know if there's any minor leaks. There should be some splashes on there, dirt, you know, if it's oil or power steering fluid or whatever. Now we've run the engine for a little bit, so it's warm down there, might even be hot, so be careful around the cats and the exhaust pipe. So getting back to the rags, you know, use the clean rag for little piddly stuff like this. The other rag is totally trashed, and it was in the trash. I had to go get it. So as you can see, I sacrificed one and start another. Alright, I'm still deciding on that oil filter, whether I want to leave it in the video or not. So it looks like I'm going to leave it in the video and just say, hey, you know, everybody's human, you make mistakes, so just pay attention to details, because that's kind of what my videos do. Pay attention to details, show you tips and tricks, and sometimes it's just to come along and watch what I do. It's not instructional. But anyway, dispose of properly. And then disposing of oil, we have all the major players around here: Advanced, AutoZone, O'Reilly, Napa, you know, so I'm not too far in the boondocks, so there's plenty of places to recycle. I typically go to Advanced because I can just walk back there and dump it myself. No need reading the dipstick while it's up in the air like this. It's kind of a false reading. So now I'll start the engine, warm it up, look for leaks underneath, and you really need to wait a couple minutes. I mean, major leaks are going to be spilling all over the place. You'll see that before you start the car up. If you forgot to put the plug in or something major like that. Minor leaks, you know, you need to wait like 2 minutes, which seems like 2 hours. But, you know, start the car up, let it run. Look for leaks. If you don't see anything, then you can put the cover back on. Also, this car will absolutely go snaky if it's not sealed up. You can get a check engine if you don't have the cap on and the dipstick down. So you gotta watch that on new cars. You know, you gotta make sure, pay attention to details. You know, like putting in the correct oil filter. Alright, we'll start the recycling process, and there's no reason in the world not to recycle. I mean, it's not even worth going there. Even though there's a potential for a spill and making a mess and overfilling the bottles and it running all over the place and whatnot like that, for some reason I like taking the jugs to the auto parts store instead of the catch pan. I don't know, it just seems easier to me, less hassle. I don't know, it's just, I just like doing that better for some reason. I don't even know why. Alright, so we are good. This car is good for another year. I kind of change it annually, no matter what the mileage, because, you know, I don't drive. I'm lucky to hit 15,000, even if I go on road trips. It's closer to 8. So I want to say 10, but I don't want to, you know, underestimate. I didn't even look for this video to see how many miles I'd driven, but I'm sure it was very close to 10,000 miles. But it was 1 calendar year. I go by state inspection as annually, so when state inspection pops up, I change the oil. That's kind of how it goes for me. Alright, wheel chalk out. I'm going to get it off the ramps and check the oil level, but you know, with these electronic systems now, you don't need to really pull the dipstick, even though typically I do. Alright, there is no service reminder reset, so that's it. I have a separate video when that service reminder does pop up, how to clear it, and thank you for watching.